Let's go back to your anomaly thing, because Ramachandran calls the right hemisphere the anomaly detector.
Yes.
And so I think that that's a very important point, because there are two ways you can react to an anomaly. One is to, and both have to be explored. One is to try and prove that it's not really an anomaly, and therefore you can carry on with things as normal.
Yes.
And the other is
that's the hopeful. That's what you hope will happen.
That's the typical left hemisphere approach. It doesn't want anything to have to shift.
Yeah.
And quite reasonably, you don't want to be chaotically shifting if you're onto a good thing.
Yeah, it's too stressful.
Exactly.
It takes too much work.
And you might actually be mistaken. In a way, it's perfectly correct to be wary, but it's not correct to be so wary that you blot out anomalies. And there's a lot of evidence, as I'm sure you know, that the left hemisphere simply blots out everything that doesn't fit with its take. It doesn't see it, actually, at all.
Right.
So there's a hugely important element in the right hemisphere going, hang on, but there may be another way of thinking that will accommodate this better. And actually, good science needs, yes, to be skeptical about anomalies, otherwise there'll be chaos, but it also needs to be able to shift when an anomaly is large enough.
Right.
Or there are quite a lot of them and they don't really fit very well into the scheme.
Exactly, yes. So there's another observation that Jung made, which I love this observation. He was trying to account for radical personality transformation.
Right.
And so his idea was this, and I think it's commensurate with the ideas of inhibition between the two hemispheres. So let's imagine the left is habitually inhibiting the function of the right to keep fear under control. It does that all sorts of ways. But so imagine that the right is reacting to anomalies and it's aggregating them. Okay, the left can't deal with them, so the right is aggregating anomalies. And maybe that's starting to manifest itself in nightmarish dreams, for example. It's like, these anomalies are piling up. It's indication that you're on shifting sand. Well, so then imagine that the right hemisphere aggregates anomalies, and then it starts to detect patterns in the anomalies. And so now it starts to generate what you might consider a counter-hypothesis to the left's hypothesis. If that counter-hypothesis gets to the point where the total sum, in some sense, of the anomalies plus the already mapped territory can be mapped by that new pattern, then at some point it will shift, and the person will kick into a new personality configuration. It's like a Piagetian stage transition, except more dramatic.
It is, and what a Piagetian stage transition is also like, and subsumes both, is Hegelian Aufhebung, the idea that a thing is opposed by something else, but when there is a synthesis, it's not that one of them is annihilated.
Right.
They're both transformed and taken up into the new whole, which embraces what before looked like an opposition.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so here's a question for you. You know, when I read Thomas Kuhn, I was reading Piaget at the same time, and I knew that Piaget was aware of Kuhn's work, by the way. And the problem I had with Kuhn and the interpreters of Kuhn is they don't seem to get something, who interpret Kuhn as a moral relativist in some sense. They don't seem to get the idea of increased generalizability of plan. So let's say I have a theory and a bunch of anomalies accrue and I have to wipe out the theory. And so then I wipe out the theory and I incorporate the anomalies and now I have another theory. So that's a descent into chaos. That's my estimation. That's the old story. So the anomaly, disruption, is the mythical descent into chaos.
Yes.
And then you reconfigure the theory with the chaos and you come up with a better theory.
Yes.
Okay, the question is, why is it better? And the answer is, well, it accounts for everything that the previous theory accounted for, plus the anomalies.
Exactly.
So there's progress.
Always,
Yes, exactly. And so, but Kuhn is often read as stating that there is no progress, that, you know, there's incommensurate paradigms and you have to just shift between them, but there isn't cumulative knowledge in some sense.
Well, I think one